That's wonderful. That is not the introduction for the Bible Thumping Wingnut, but that's what's going to play as we begin. Oh, boy. You think you got everything planned perfectly, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. This is Bible Thumping Wingnut podcast.
For almost 10 years, Ken Pollock Nissan, Northeast Pennsylvania's most trusted Nissan dealer, has provided the best quality vehicles.
That is my own advertisement on my own video playing. That is cool. That is awesome. Well, we are nothing short of not professionals here. Welcome to the Bible Thumping Wingnut Show. This is a Sunday evening. It is November 15th. This is episode number 123. And like I said, it is a Sunday night. Matt Slick is with me. And we wanted to spend time this week talking about Islam in light of the recent attacks in Paris. And I'm sure everyone, worldwide, everyone who has access to the world news is thinking about this. And it's very troubling. And so we wanted to talk about it. We wanted to talk about Islam. We wanted to get talk about maybe some things that Matt has written in the past about Islam. And well, first of all, welcome, Matt. How are you doing tonight?
Doing well, by God's grace. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm happy to have you here. And I see an article that you wrote. I don't know where you want to go, but I've got a few questions for you. But first, your article. And we want to invite people to join this discussion, right?
Right.
Whether you're a Christian or a non-believer, or if you are a Muslim, that would be interesting.
Yeah, please do call.
The link to join is in the description of this video. Once again, there's a glitch with Google Hangouts, and there is no opportunity for live comments. I've asked around the YouTube community, those who do Google Hangouts, and they're all experiencing the same issue. Google is not allowing comments during a live Google Hangout. As soon as the Hangout is over, the comments section is available, but for this live portion, unfortunately, there's no way for you to communicate. We are live on Mixlr. Go to BibleThumpingWingnut.com. You can make comments there, or you can Skype me at the Bible Thumping Wingnut, and I'll get your question or comment. Or you could email me at gmail.com. And of course, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. But Matt, I am looking at an article that you wrote, Islam, the Religion of Peace and Terrorism.
Yeah, it's a religion of terror.
Where does, I mean, from a Christian perspective, or from a non-biased position, you don't even have to be a Christian. Looking from the outside, we don't see the peace. But where does that concept come from? Where do you know where the Muslims come with that claim of peace?
Well, basically what it is a means of taqiyya, which is a form of deception. You can lie to your enemies and the infidels in order to propagate Islam, in order to further Islam. So they will say it's a religion of peace, but it's not a religion of peace. Now, excuse me, I'm still getting over bad chest problems with all the traveling I've been doing this past week. And my voice might tank a little while too, who knows. But nevertheless, it's not a religion of peace at all. I'm going to go over some surahs or some verses in the Quran here in a little while and show you. But it's really bad. And sorry, it's a violent religion. It's full of killing. It's full of hate. It's full of illogic, and it spreads by the sword. And it's really bad news. So we'll get into that in a little bit. I'm getting some files ready because I just got home. My schedule's really been swamped. So
while you get those files ready. I just want to put it out there. Matt Slick, all the devastation that was just done in Paris. Over 130, the numbers keep fluctuating a little bit, somewhere between 120 and 150, I suppose.
Right.
But, Matt, the thing that shocks me the most is that there was only 7 or 8 terrorists. That's it.
7 or 8 is all it takes, particularly when you're in an area like France where guns are not allowed. So you get a bunch of people into a place. The terrorists know. You go in there because no one's going to be able to defend themselves. Nobody has any weapons. The bad guys do. This is sheer stupidity. It is absolute moronic idiocy to do this, particularly in Paris, with a lot of Muslims going around who, in the streets, they behead, those against Muhammad, things like that. It's just bad news. And you'd think, well, let's put it this way: the French and a lot of people in Western Europe are incredibly ignorant, incredibly deceived, and think that just by being nice, that Muslims will come around. Just being nice means that the Muslims will see you as being weak. Their mentality is so far beyond just be nice and it'll make a difference. They're demonically oppressed, if not possessed. They have been brainwashed for years into believing that death is better than life. You see, in Islam, in the doctrine of salvation, you can't get to heaven by being good. There's a phrase, inshallah, that means if Allah wills. If He wills, you can get into heaven. But you see, you could be doing all kinds of good works. It doesn't mean you're going to get to heaven. You might go, you might not, because the God of Islam is capricious. He's arbitrary. Excuse me. And so, man, I really got my throat problem here. Sorry about that, folks. And so in Islam, the way to be guaranteed to go to paradise is to die in jihad, die in battle. These guys are ready to die in battle. Now, furthermore, I was reading a book yesterday when I was in Detroit, waiting for my plane. This guy was saying, he came out of Islam, and he was saying that Muhammad, that there's a place, I got to verify this in the Hadith, where a woman asked Muhammad something about how her son can go to heaven. And he said, how the women can go to heaven. And he said, if 3 of your sons die in jihad, you can go to heaven. And then she said, what if only 2 die in jihad? Can you go to heaven? And he said, yes, if 2 die. Well, this will tell you, it says women in Islam are second-class citizens. They could be beaten, what is that, 480, I can find it. They could be beaten. Muhammad said there are twice as many women in hell as men. Their possession, they don't have nearly as many rights. If a man rapes a woman, she has to produce in court 4 witnesses, 4 male witnesses to the rape. And I was just told yesterday, when I was on the air doing TV out there and ABN satellite network, the guy said that his name was Usama Dakdok, that's his name, a real nice guy, knows his stuff, saying that in the Arabic, and he speaks Arabic, that what's going on in the Hadith, what it's saying, that you had to have 4 witnesses. The males witnesses have to actually see, so to speak, the penetration. They have to see the genitalia entering. That's the only way it can be corroborated. This is how women are. Why is this important? Because women have basically no chance of going to heaven. But if their sons die in jihad, then they can go to heaven. The women can. So the women, the mothers, will promote their children to go die in jihad, and Muhammad does as Islam does, and so we have these people who are willing to die. And they think that we are committing shirk, which is assigning partners to God, which is an abominable sin to them, shirk, assigning partners. And if you assign partners, you're an infidel. You're worse than infidels. You're working against God, and so you deserve to be killed. So these people that were in that theater are infidels working against God, who are generically believing in the Trinity, which they say is 3 gods. And deserve to die. So these men go in there with their illegal weapons in a legal place where the law-abiding people are abiding the law. They don't have weapons, and he goes in there and they kill so many people. This is the whole problem. This is what's going on in the process, the mentality inside of Islam.
The thing that concerns me, well, a lot of things obviously concern me in regards to this matter, but there could be a time where there's 100 in one city.
Yep.
And could you imagine the carnage that they could accomplish?
Yep.
That's why I say there's only 7, when literally there's probably 7,000 not too far away that would love to be in on that action.
Yep.
Now let me ask you this, Matt. What would you say to the person who makes the claim that, you know what, this is just proof that religion is divisive and hateful, and if this isn't a mark against just Islam. I mean, we could have this divisive, hateful killing in all religions, or at least in Christianity as well, because we've even seen it in the past. We've seen Christians killing others. What would you
say? Where? Show me. Where's this? Where are the Christians killing others? And they'll go to either the Crusades or the Inquisition. But those are not corroborated. Excuse me. Those are not approved of in Scripture. Just because someone does something like that doesn't mean that they're true Christians or behaving according to what the Scriptures teach. Now, what a lot of them do is say, well, the Old Testament God had a lot of people killed. That was for Israel, before the Messiah, in the theocratic system, under a different covenant. And that is past and it's done with, and we could argue the justifications for that back in the context of that time, but the fact is, it's not to be continued now, ever since Christ came. The problem in the Quran is that the admonitions to kill are in the present tense. They are told to do it. Now, here's what's important. A lot of people don't realize this. In Islam, Muhammad is the final prophet. And Muhammad is the best of all prophets. I'll get some documentation here, open up a little bit. Maybe I'll find that right now. He's the best of all prophets, right? Hold on one sec. Let's see. Okay, here we go. He's the greatest and best of all prophets, and Muslims are supposed to emulate Muhammad. Oh no, I lost my train of thought. I'll get my stuff ready. Sorry, I didn't have much time to do this.
That's I'm not. We've got a couple questions from.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Joined. So I'm adding one individual who's going to be the first guest. If you're watching and you'd like to join, you can just click that link that's in the description of this live Google Hangout, and you can engage with Matt Slick. If you have a question or some insights you'd like to share in regards to what we've witnessed recently in Paris.
Yeah. And I forgot what it's supposed to emulate Muhammad. At any rate, there's a surah that says this. This is out of the Quran. Ye have indeed in the apostle of Allah a beautiful pattern of conduct for anyone whose hope is in Allah and the final day, and who engages such in the praise of Allah. So Muhammad is the one you're supposed to emulate. Muhammad is the one that the Muslims are supposed to emulate. Well, you know what Muhammad did? He had sex slaves. He had over 200 servants or slaves in his household, multiple wives. He would raid caravans and take his then growing army of thugs and go around to different cities and raid the cities. They became rich very quickly. This is who Muhammad is. The Muslims see themselves as being obligated to follow Muhammad, who is supposed to be the greatest of all prophets. Now, I remember my point now. Since he's the greatest of all prophets, and since the Quran says that he's the last prophet, and since the Quran also says that you're supposed to go out and kill and put terror in the hearts of people and subjugate everybody until everybody worships Allah. Well, there's no more revelation to come. That means that admonition, those admonitions are permanent admonitions. What the goal of Islam is world domination, absolute world domination, and it cannot allow, in any way, shape, or form, it cannot allow a democratic system to exist, republics to exist. Only Sharia can exist. And in Sharia, there is, let's just say, basically no freedoms if you're not a Muslim.
Yeah.
So, it's a dire problem. It is a real bad problem. Islam is.
All right, we've got Kobe. Kobe, I don't know what worldview he's coming from, but Kobe has joined us and asked to be on the program. Kobe, you're on. How are you?
I'm fine. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Is the topic today only Islam, or are you taking broader questions as well?
It's up to the host.
Yeah, it's open to whatever you'd like to.
Okay. If you wouldn't mind a question on the tag argument.
Sure.
I think it's less. I mean, I've listened to you for years, so I'm very familiar with.
Are you an atheist?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I'm pretty familiar with your reputation of critics of the argument. So I'm more interested in just trying to figure out if I can comprehend one of the elements of the argument as you put it forward. It seems to me. I mean, you're familiar with the fallacy of reification?
No.
Sometimes called the fallacy of misplaced concreteness.
No.
The fallacy of reification is when in arguing about something abstract, that you try to contextualize it in ways that would only make sense for something concrete, such as simultaneously trying to describe something that is timeless and spaceless, but using terms that could only apply if it was a material object in time and space. So far, so good?
I'm a category mistake.
I'm sorry?
Similar to a category mistake.
Okay. I think part of my inability to grasp what you're saying with the tag argument is that you seem to be committing the fallacy of reification, whereas you describe the laws of logic as these abstract entities, and yet sometimes in your conversations you seem to switch into a mode where you seem to be justifying them in a way that only makes sense if they were physical entities.
So?
Well, one argument, one variation is where I've usually heard a phrase that if man didn't exist, would a rock still be a rock? Something like that. Or if minds didn't exist, would a rock still be a rock?
Right, atheists bring that up, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think the thing first of all, I'll tell you where I'm coming from with the laws of logic. I consider them to be rules of language, not any particular language, but human language in general. And as such, it doesn't make sense to me to suggest that a rule is something that could exist abstractly on its own if a mind didn't exist. And I know you presuppose that God exists, and it seems that I've heard you be unwilling to even hypothesize a scenario where God doesn't exist to sort of test what I'm trying to describe. But as far as the laws of logic are concerned, it only makes sense to me to say that if human beings, if they were the only minds in the universe, the only thinking entities, if they disappeared all of a sudden, the reason that a rock would still remain a rock is only because, well, a rock wouldn't be a rock because the idea of a rock is an abstraction unto itself. The physical thing that we refer to when we talk about a rock is what wouldn't change, even if the laws of logic disappeared with mankind.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? You
of course, I don't see any problem yet. I don't see any problem, but yeah.
Okay, so then it seems to me that you haven't demonstrated that God is necessary for the laws of logic to exist at all then.
Are the laws of logic abstractions?
I'm not sure what you mean by abstraction.
Are they of the mind, related to the mind?
Well, keeping in mind that my definition is that they are rules in the same way that the rules of baseball are rules, then they are...
Are the rules of baseball abstractions? Are the rules of baseball abstractions?
I think there's a difference between something being abstract and something being an abstraction, so I'm not sure what you mean.
Okay. Are the rules of baseball mental constructs?
I would say they are ideas.
An idea is a mental construct.
If
So
that's
you
the definition you want to use.
Well, yeah, an idea is in the mind.
Well, the idea, the thing, the term mental construct, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that, so I'm trying to keep it in terms that we can both agree on.
Is an idea, does an idea occur in the brain?
Yes, I suppose they do.
Okay, so when someone cites a law of baseball, a rule of baseball, is that something that's occurring in the brain?
As a process of thinking, I suppose, yes.
Okay, so I don't know baseball at all, but I'm sure that there's some rule. Does what the rule of whatever, I don't know, forced out or something like that? Is that an abstraction or an idea that exists independently of the game and exists somewhere in the universe?
No, not as far as I understand.
Of course not, because that's right, because it's a construct of human thought, of human mind in a particular situation. So they're abstractions. They're of the mind. The laws of logic are those things. The laws of logic are also abstractions. They are ideas. They are of the mind. They have conceptual nature to them.
Sure, but then why then can't they simply? I mean, your argument is that only God can create them, and so far it seems we agree that they're both products of human thinking. So where does God come into that equation?
Okay, so you said they're conceptual by nature, then.
I'm not sure if I agree with that.
You did. You can retract it. That's fine.
Well, I never did say that they're conceptual by nature.
I said they're conceptual, and you said yes.
Just because something is conceptual doesn't necessarily mean it's conceptual by nature.
The laws of baseball, are they conceptual by nature?
I don't know. I know that they are concepts, I will agree to that, but I don't know if something is necessarily conceptual by nature just because it's a concept.
Is my thought conceptual by nature?
Again, this term by nature that you're attaching, I'm not sure what that means.
Well, I guess we're done talking because,
Well, why can't you explain that to me?
I keep asking you questions and you keep saying, I don't know what this means, I don't know what that means. If you don't know what they mean, why are you having a conversation? If you don't even know what they mean, let me finish. If you don't know what they mean, why are you trying to have a conversation with me?
Well, you asked me if your thoughts are conceptual by nature. I need to know what you mean by nature. What's another thing that you would say?
The essence of a thought, a concept, conceptuality of the mind. Is it?
If what you're asking is a concept, then yes.
Does a concept occur in the brain, in the mind?
Yes, by thinking.
Okay, so then the concepts require minds, don't they?
Yes.
Okay, are the laws of logic concepts?
They are concepts.
Do they require minds?
Yes.
Okay, are the laws of logic universal?
I've always had some trouble with the way you use the word universal. You seem to think it means in the universe as opposed to the way the word is usually used in terms of logic.
Are they always true wherever you go?
They're axioms, so they can't be true in the normal way we think of true, because truth is proved through axioms.
Okay. Are they always true wherever we go?
I just explained my answer to that.
No, you didn't.
I said that they're axioms, and axioms are true by necessity, but truth is usually proved through axioms, so we can't say that they're true in the way we would say.
These are the axioms. These are the axioms upon which truth is determined using logic.
Right, but they themselves are not true.
The law of identity is a presupposition. It's a law. It's an axiomatic truth. And in your worldview as an atheist, how do you account for these axiomatic truths that are conceptual by nature?
Well, as I explained before, they're language rules, so they're agreements between human minds.
So in order to have language rules, you have to presuppose the laws of logic to recognize the laws of the language rules. You have to be able to know what language is, identification and symbols and all kinds of things. You presuppose identity and the law of non-contradiction in order to have them. If you say that they are based on language, then all you're doing is offering a circular argument. You're saying
I didn't say that they're
language, and language makes them what they are, and what they are is language.
I said that language is based on them, or at least in part.
Oh,
but, yeah.
So language, that means if language is based on them, then they have an existence apart from the language. Then they could not be just based on language, could they?
Well, they have an existence as principles of the language. But that's again, that's a type of thought.
Is a principle is a principle a concept?
Can you hold on one second? I'm hearing some distortion. Is anyone else hearing that? Perhaps Tim can confirm that.
I was typing. Is a principle a concept?
Yeah, it's an idea.
Okay. So then these laws of logic are principles, they're concepts.
Yeah.
And they always have their validity and truth, right?
I'm not sure what that means.
They're always true wherever you go, whenever you are, they're always true.
They're only true as rules. They're only true when you agree to them. They don't have existence as truth outside of our opinions.
Agree to them?
Yes.
Do you realize what you just said? Do you realize what you just said?
Well, you're equivocating on the word truth.
Okay. We're not going to go anywhere. Look, I want to talk about Islam. And what you're doing...
Well, I can dumb it down for you if you need me to.
You know what? You know, that kind of an insult, it really is
insulted me. We can't get anywhere. All I'm trying to do is
goodbye. You're going to be insulting like that. You know, all the guy, let me just recap here. I'm trying to work with this guy. I'm taking notes on what he says. And what he's doing is say, redefine. And then I understand what he's saying. And for him to say, hey, he can dumb it down for me, really is just uncalled for and insulting. There's no need to have that kind of a conversation if he's going to be like that. So he can just come back another time when he can behave better. We can have maybe a more adult conversation.
Yeah,
Sheesh.
Even apart from that, I need to apologize to the listeners and to Moby, because I should have been more decisive, because we do want to talk about Islam, and it has nothing to do, you know, I know the non-believers, they'll make the comments, oh, Tim cut him off, Tim booted him because he was making a great point. I think that would be a real difficult argument to make. He is welcome to come back. But I should have been more decisive, because we do want to be talking about Islam. About
Muslims. Just tell these atheists to stop being so insulting. Gosh.
So we do have the honor of having a Muslim join us, and Matt. I've been communicating with him a little bit here, and he says he's not good with English, and he doesn't understand. What did he say? A certain type of speech, but
that's okay. We'll do our best.
You know, I would encourage you to go slow with him, and hopefully he's got a mic working. And his name is Muhammad.
Okay.
Muhammad, let me unmute your microphone. Turn your volume up. How are you today, Muhammad?
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
We can hear you. You're a little faint. I've turned your volume up all the way, so.
Yeah, my voice clear. Hello.
Yes.
Get real close to your microphone there.
Yeah. Is this right?
Yes, we can hear you. We have to listen carefully, so as close you can get to your microphone, the better. And we can hear you, yes.
Yes, okay.
Well, let me ask you this question as we start the conversation. Speak loudly as well. You're a Muslim. As you see what has happened in Paris, what are your thoughts and insights? What do you feel about what happened as a Muslim? Are you in approval of what happened, or do you condemn those that carried out the killing?
As I am a Muslim, I suppose that Islam is far away from these works. Our Islam, reveals these works like terrorists. It called for peaceful. So it's called Islam. What's the meaning of Islam? Islam is called peaceful, and mercy. We have a Quran. Quran says uh, the sign of Quran is Assalamu alaikum. What's the meaning of Assalamu alaikum? Assalamu alaikum is a peaceful, to spread the peaceful around the world. So the main title in Islam is a peace, not a terrorist.
Muhammad, let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
For those of us who reject Islam and say that we don't want Sharia law, do you believe that Islam offers us peace? And do you offer peace to those who reject Sharia law?
Could you repeat this question again?
I understand that as a Muslim, you believe that peace is spread through Sharia law. Is that correct?
The last phrase. Could you write it in the chat?
Does if people could help me in the chat, you typing out for him what I'm trying to ask him. Does you say Islam is peace,
yeah.
But is peace also for those who reject Islam?
Yeah, peaceful. Peace spread. Peace is around all people. All people, not Muslims. Not Muslims. Not only Muslims. Peace involving all peoples around the world.
That's not true. Sorry, but do you know what taqiyya is? Taqiyya?
Taqiyya, yeah.
Do you know, for those of you who don't know, taqiyya is the practice of lying in order to expand Islam. And Muslims are free to lie, to even confess Christian truths with your mouth, but not in your heart, in order to gain confidence of your enemy, and so that you can destroy them. Now, it doesn't mean he's practicing it, but that's what it is in Islam. It's what Muhammad did, and he's obligated to follow what Muhammad said and did. So that's a problem. But the Quran absolutely does teach violence to people. It does. And I can read you guys some stuff here. I've got some information trying to transfer it to a different computer. This is what it says in Surah 8:65. O you prophet, provoke the believers to engage in war. If there will be 20 patient, steadfast, and fighting ones of you, they will have victory over 200. And there are others like this. Let me read some more. This is what it says. O you who have believed, do not take Jews and Christians as friends. That's Surah 5:51. Muhammad said, this is out of the Hadith, do not initiate the salam, peace, to the Jews and Christians, and if you meet any of them on the road, force them to its narrowest alley. Check this out, Surah 3, 151. 3 just means basically chapter, verse 151. We will cast terror into the hearts of those who became infidels because they partner other gods with Allah, which he did not send down with any sultan, and their abode is the fire, and evil is the place of the unjust. Surah 8:12, when your Lord revealed to the angels, I am with you, so make firm those who believed. I will cast a terror into the hearts of those who became infidels. So strike above their necks, that's decapitation, and strike off every finger of them. In Islam, every finger, it includes the toes in Arabic. In Surah 33, 26 to 27, and he brought down the people of the book who backed them from their strong places and cast the terror into their hearts. A group of them you are killing, and a group of them you are taking captive. And he made you to inherit their land and their homes and their money and a land which you had never set foot on. Surah 59:13. You are a greater terror in their chests than Allah. This is because they are people who do not understand. So the Muslims are supposed to be more fearful than God himself. Um, I mean, let's see, Surah 9:41, march forth lightly or heavily and perform jihad with your money and your lives for the sake of Allah. This is best for you if you are knowing. Surah 3:169, and do not consider those who were killed for the sake of Allah as dead, yet they are alive with their Lord receiving their provision. You know what their provision is? 72 virgins. They're sex slaves. The 72 virgins are sex slaves. I talked to a guy this weekend in depth. For those who don't know, I was out in Detroit for about 5 days. I was involved with 2 debates with a Muslim, one on Wednesday, one on Thursday, and doing TV on Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, all day Friday, and flew back yesterday. And I met a lot of guys who speak Arabic. In fact, it's really weird. I'll tell you, it's really strange being in a place, a building where everybody's speaking Arabic, and you're the only you're sitting there looking around like, what are they saying? And there's another guy like myself who didn't understand a word of Arabic, and these guys love Jesus. And we get on the air on TV and we're just talking, and these guys they know stuff. It's amazing to hear how evil Islam really is. And they were telling me all kinds of stuff. I learned a great deal in the past week. But nevertheless, I can go on with other verses. You know, when Muslims say Islam is a religion of peace, they are either lying or they're ignorant about the truth.
So Mohammed is typing in the chat, so I will read his chat for folks. And Mohammed, if you would like to speak, that's fine as well. But he's having an easier time typing his thoughts than speaking them in English, and he's having a problem with his mic. So Mohammed says, Islam is far away from these claims that you're saying, Matt. Our Islam does not call for terrorists. Which, of course, the question, Mohammed, is Matt not reading from your religious text? Because he's reading from your religious text, and you're saying that that's not Islam.
Yep. This is Surah 3:151. Look.
And Muhammad writes, every human has evil and peace inside him. Well, I think that's irrelevant. I think that's irrelevant to what we're... Matt just put a verse in the text there. Our question would be, do you read your own religious text?
Maybe he doesn't understand. Let's see.
He responded. He says he reads it.
Okay, he read it. Good.
So, why do you ignore the text? Like, we have terrorists who are religious folks from Islam who read the text, and this is what they gain from it, and we understand where they get it from. How do you handle those texts, Muhammad? You just ignore them, or how do you explain them away? Would be a real obvious question for you.
Okay, well, I will show it now. By type.
We can hear you. You can just speak. What are you thinking about what's been said here, Muhammad?
Okay. Let me read it.
All right. Well, as we're waiting for Muhammad to respond, I'm going to add Fritz to the conversation. He had a question for you, Matt Slick.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been on before. I always forget. There's so many people, and my memory is poor. I don't remember who's a believer, who's not, and what people's names or proper names should be used or not. But Fritz, you're on. Remind me of who you are.
Hey, thanks, guys. It's Fritz Stamberger of IslandOnlineNews.com, and I am a Christian.
Okay.
And I just wanted to ask you guys if you've considered the possibility of whether the attacks in Paris are possibly a false flag event, similar to 9/11, since there was some suspicious sort of things, like they were carrying out drills that morning for that specific exact event, and they found the passports just like on 9/11. So have you guys thought about that possibility, and are you open to it?
Yeah, I'm open to it. Don't know if that's the case, though. They shouted Allahu Akbar and suicide bombings, and they did it in the name of Allah. Now, does that mean that we're independent people? We don't know. Were they connected with other groups? It would seem so. It turns out one of the refugees I just read this earlier today, one of the perpetrators was a refugee, or came to France as a refugee, and he was actually an ISIS operative. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but this is what I was reading online. So we do know that ISIS is claiming it. It seems to be the case that they're using this refugee thing as a means to infiltrate and get people into various countries. So what you said is certainly a possibility. I don't believe it's isolated. I believe it's going to continue. I don't think every day. They're not dumb, but it'll gradually increase. I don't know if you're aware of the statistics of what happens when, if I can find them. Let's see. I'm see if I can find it. I got it handy. I don't have it. Certain statistics, when I can just give you the rough idea. When Muslims are like 2% of a population, they're peaceful. 5%, they start making demands. 10%, they get violent. Things like that. And so what you're seeing in Paris is that kind of a thing, with the rise of the percentages of Muslims coming in. Just so happens my wife speaks French, and her mom was born and raised in France. We have French relatives on her side. And one of them is a retired airline stewardess. She speaks perfect English, pretty much perfect English. She's great. And so they come over to get free airline stuff. So she comes over every now and then. And 20 years ago, we were talking. They were here. We were talking about, here in the States, we're talking about how Muslims were in Paris, or in France. And Danielle, that's her name, Danielle said, "Oh, there's no problem. They're peaceful people. We like them." And 2 years ago, they came over, and I said, "How's it going with the Muslims?" And she just stared at me, wouldn't say anything. And I knew, she just wasn't happy about it. And we have a friend, we haven't talked to him for a couple of years, but it's a connection. He's a Paris policeman. And he was telling us, or telling my wife, that, and his English is perfect, telling her that there are no-go zones. That if you dress as a cop, or you don't dress as a Muslim, you go into these certain areas at night, you're risking your life. This is what Islam is becoming. So, well, it's not becoming, it's what it is. In fact, I'm going to make this statement. ISIS is not radical. ISIS is not radical Islam. ISIS is what Islam has been throughout history. This is the Islam of Muhammad. ISIS is practicing what Muhammad did. That is true Islam. And you're going to see more and more attacks. In fact, let me read something in the Bible here. I know I'm kind of being disparate here a little bit, but I remember where it is. Genesis 16, I believe it is. I think it's starting at verse 12. Let me see. That's starting at verse 11. It says this, the angel of the Lord said to her, now the context is Hagar. Abraham had his wife Sarah, and he was promised a son, and he didn't get one, so Sarah gave to Abraham Hagar as a handmaiden for him to have relations with and bear a child. And in that culture, that made sense because a woman's body was just simply the repository of the seed of man, like a seed is in the ground. And the seed is what carries the authority and the stuff. So anyway, that could be her. You know, Hagar would have the child, and then Sarah would take the child, and it'd be hers because it was her husband's seed. That's how it would work. But then Sarah became jealous and started afflicting Hagar, and she fled. And then this is what Genesis 16:11 says, the angel of the Lord said to her further, behold, you are with child, and you will bear a son, and you shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord has given heed to your affliction. Now, God had promised that the descendants of Abraham would be numerous, very numerous. So Ishmael is one of the descendants. Verse 12, he will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone. And everyone's hand, garage door. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand will be against him. And he will live to the east of all his brothers. Now, you know, take it for what you want, but that seems to be a prophecy of the Muslim-type people. They are wild donkeys. You know, they can't be controlled. They injure. They're thoughtless. They're irrational. And this is what we have to deal with Islam. It's going to continue.
Okay, I think that I probably have a different idea about the powers behind, you know, ISIS and stuff like that, but I'm not going to stir the pot too much tonight. I think that's a pretty fair answer, so I'll just kind of leave it at that. Thanks for your answer, Matt.
Sure.
I'll keep listening.
Sure.
So Muhammad commented, Muhammad, I would appreciate if somebody in the chat would interact with Muhammad because I'm sure he's listening to me, but it would be easier for him to read text. But his response when we confronted him with the writings of his religious text saying that you know, ISIS is justified in what they do, Muhammad responds with a verse. He says, so what's the meaning of unbelievers, not Christians and Jews? And he gives a verse from his text. He says, lo, religion with Allah is the surrender to his will and guidance. Those who formerly received the scripture differed only after knowledge came unto them, though transgression among themselves. Whoso disbelieves the revelations of Allah will find that, lo, Allah is swift at reckoning. That kind of sounds like a threat to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like it doesn't sound peaceful, Muhammad. And then he followed that up with, Prophet Muhammad is a human like me and you, so peace inside every heart, inside gunman heart, not Muslim or Christian heart.
Well,
unfortunately, we've got a language barrier. But,
well, here's the thing: is that whether or not people want to admit it, Islam does promote war and deception. But let me read some stuff. I got other verses about terror and terrorism and stuff like that. You know, I already read them, but let me paste them in, and you guys can see them for yourselves. This is out of Usuf Ali, which is a pretty watered-down translation. And what the Muslims are doing in the English is watering it down. I've talked to Christian Arabic-speaking people who read and write Arabic, and they all say the same thing. The English Quran is a joke. It's watered down so you don't really know what's going on in it to see how evil it really is. All right. In Surah 256, there is no compulsion in religion. But in Surah 9:29, fight those who believe not in Allah. In 109, it says, you shall have your religion and I shall have mine. in Surah 9:5. So when the sacred months have passed away, then slay the idolaters wherever you find them. In Surah 8:61, but if the enemy inclines towards peace, do you incline towards peace also? And yet in Surah 47:35, do not be weary and faint-hearted, crying out for peace when ye should be uppermost. Whatever communications we abrogate or cause to be forgotten, we bring one better than or like it before. Do you not know that Allah has power over all things? And he says in 167, and the hypocrites also, these were told, come fight in the way of Allah, or at least drive the foe from the city. They said, had we known how to fight, we certainly would have followed you. They were that day near to unbelief and to faith. It goes on. Fighting war is part of what Islam is about. That's how it was spread. I mean, it's a bad. I'm telling you guys, it's bad. It's a bad religion.
We've got Rocco joining the conversation. Rocco is a regular guest on the Google Hangout. Rocco, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, good. How are you guys doing?
All right.
Good. Yeah, I actually had a quick question for you, Matt. I was reading a discussion about Muslims, and a Christian made a point that I wanted to think about a little bit, and I kind of wanted to hear your response to it. But you made the comment basically just in this hangout that ISIS is Islam. That
Yes.
they're doing exactly what their book is, and the argument that was posed was that Christians who say that these quote unquote extremists are the real Muslims, does that give too much coherency to the Quran? Because there are peaceful factions in Islam, Muslims, very liberal Muslims, and then you have the extremists. So I guess his criticism was when we say this is the real Islam, does it give too much coherency to the Quran because the Quran is so contradictory?
Well, it doesn't imply coherence to quote those verses. We know that the Quran is not coherent and has many internal contradictions. But what Muslims do is practice cognitive dissonance. They can't think. They can't reason properly because their cerebral hamstrings are tied. Their hands are tied behind their back. They can't go very far. So when we talk about various verses, all we're doing is citing what they believe, what their Quran teaches. And the problem is, here in America and the Western cultures, the people are, I'm sorry?
Hello?
Yeah?
I'm sorry for this interrupt.
You got to speak up because I can't hardly hear you.
But I have another situation. Islam is good. I can't explain my point of view as my English is not good.
Okay. Do you read Arabic?
Yeah.
Okay, could you go to Surah 3:54? Surah 3, verse 54?
I see. Let me now from this surah. But
you know it?
Let me now from this surah. But now let's talk with Muhammad. I love you in Allah. What's the meaning of I love you in Allah? I'm a human. What's the meaning of human? Human is
Watch, guys, he won't answer. Well, there's a language problem. Can you read Surah 3:54?
Yeah.
Because I know what the Arabic says.
I don't know Arabic.
No, I know people who speak Arabic. They tell me the same thing. This is Surah 3:54. Did they then feel secure against the plan of Allah? The word plan there is actually the word for deceit. It's makher.
Not in the same action, no.
Yes, it is.
These actions happened a lot of years ago.
This is what it says, that Allah deceives people. He's a deceiver. This is your God. You say it's good and it makes sense. Is it good that Allah deceives people?
We have a new person added to the Google Hangout. I've never met this person before. I'm looking at his Facebook. Not sure what angle he's coming from, but I think he could be helpful in the conversation. He says he speaks Arabic.
Oh, good.
His name is, I'm going to try to pronounce, Aziz. A-Z-I-Z. Welcome to, he says he's called into Carm Show before. You're able to join the conversation. I've added you to the broadcast. And if you have a microphone, I have just turned it on. Aziz, go ahead and say something for us. Please. Having technical difficulties. I don't know if you've ever been in a Google Hangout before, but if you've got a microphone on your computer,
he's got to unmute himself.
Unmute yourself. Sorry, my mic isn't cooperating. Well, you could always drop out and come back in, or you can hit that little settings button on the top. That's one of those icons at the very top of your screen as you're looking at me right now. And choose your microphone if it's not programmed in. But hopefully he'll be joining us shortly. I don't know where we were in the conversation because I was looking at his profile and adding him to the broadcast. So, Rocco, Matt, Muhammad.
Hello.
I don't know where you guys were in the conversation. I'm really sorry. I was doing production here.
What I wanted to share was because he was saying that it's a good religion, that Islam is a good religion, if I heard him correctly. But there's a problem here. I'm going to prove to you guys, even from the liberal, watered-down translation of Yusuf Ali, that Allah is a deceiver. Now, as I put in Surah 354, I don't speak Arabic. I just spent several days with Usama. His name is Dakdok, and he's Egyptian, Coptic Egyptian, born and raised in Egypt. And when he became a Christian, he contacted his family and told them to flee because the family might be persecuted and killed. I've talked to other Arabs at the station. I've talked to a guy named Christian Prince who's on Paltalk a lot. There was another guy, I forgot his name, who's raised in Islam, speaks Arabic, and he was there, and we were talking about this stuff, and they all say the same thing. They say that the Quran in English is extremely watered down. It's a form of taqiyya, a form of deception. And in Surah 354, in English, what you get in the watered-down version is, did they then feel secure against the plan of Allah? It should be deception of Allah. That's makar in Hebrew, in Arabic, excuse me. But no one can feel secure from the plan. It should be makar, which is deceit of Allah. Now, that's repeated in 799. Now look at this. This is, I'll put in two verses here. Surah 14:4. We sent not an apostle except to teach in the language of his own people in order to make things clear to them. Now Allah leaves straying those whom he pleases and guides whom he pleases. He is exalted in power. He leaves straying. Actually, if I remember correctly, he causes to stray. Now let me put this one last thing in. And this is important because this is what Allah has done. Surah 4, 157. That they said in boasting, we killed Christ, Jesus, the son of Mary, the apostle of Allah. But they killed him not, nor crucified him. Now listen to this. But so it was made to appear to them, and those who did differ therein are full of doubts. With no certain knowledge, but only conjecture to follow for a surety, they killed him not. So what this surah is saying, Surah 4, 157, it is saying that someone was made to look like Jesus. Now, some of the traditions say that it was Judas who was made to look like Jesus. Who made him to look like Jesus? Allah did. So Allah actually perpetrated and authored, or I should say he authored and perpetrated a blatant deception at his own hand to deceive people. This is proof that he's a deceiver, because when the man who wasn't in their book, wasn't Jesus, was made to appear to look like Jesus. This is by the hand of Allah. In other words, Allah deceived people. This shows you that Allah is a deceiver. If he's a deceiver, he can't be trusted. If he's a deceiver who can't be trusted, he's not good. He's not the true God. Now, if in Islam, if he knows Arabic, he'll know that the Arabic word, makr, means to deceive. And he'll also know that the deception is practiced by Allah. Well, that means deception is part of Islam against the infidels. So, how much can we say? I don't know Arabic, Muhammad Tariq. I do not know Arabic. I know people who know Arabic. And I know, let's just say, one man who was raised in Lebanon and has a master's in Islamic law from the second most prestigious Muslim university. I know another man who has a degree from an Islamic university in Islamic law, both from speaking Arabic, which they grew up with. And I know another guy who was raised in Egypt, speaks Arabic fluently, and others that I can get in a hold of who also speak Arabic naturally as their first language. When I talk to all of them about verses like this, they all say the same thing. They say the English version is a lie. They laugh. Some of them, I've even had them say to me, to my face, stupid Americans. And these are Christian Arabs. And he says, I'm not saying you're stupid, but he said, America's stupid. They're believing this. Muhammad, do you know Arabic? Okay. So, Muhammad, you're a Muslim, correct? Okay. So let me ask you a question. It's Surah 4, 157. This is what it says right here.
For those of you who are listening, Muhammad is responding in the chat. And the verse that Matt just put in was that they said, we killed Christ Jesus, the son of Mary, the apostle of Allah, but they killed him not, nor crucified him, but so it was made to appear to them, and those who differ therein are full of doubts, with no certain knowledge, but only conjecture to follow, for of a surety they killed him not.
Right.
So that text is saying that Jesus was not crucified.
But it also is saying that Allah made someone look like Jesus. So Allah authored and perpetrated a deception. That's what the text is showing us. That Allah authored a direct deception and perpetrated it.
That second text that you put in there that says Allah is the one who perpetrated the deception, he is the one who caused it. What text is that from?
That's my notes.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a lot of pages of notes I'll be releasing on Karm hopefully this week. Developing an outline of topical stuff, of surahs, and then I'm going to be doing some more, adding more into the hadith. The Quran is the primary work, like our Bible, and then the hadith are the deeds and sayings of Muhammad, basically. And so you can't understand a lot of the Quran without the hadith. The hadith interprets a lot of the Quran. But Muhammad, if you're still here, is it true or is it not true that Allah caused the deception to occur about who was crucified? Is it true or is it not true that Allah is the one who made someone else look like Jesus? That's a deception. That was a lie. Is it not true that Allah did that? Let's see if he answers. Well, answering in Arabic isn't going to help any of us. Oh, it's not true? Oh, okay. So notice, folks, what it says is made to look like, so Muhammad, who made this other person look like Jesus? Who's the one who changed his appearance to look like somebody else? Was it Muhammad? Gabriel? Iblis? Who was it? Okay, so Allah, he admits, Allah is the one who made someone look like Jesus so that everyone believed the lie. But Allah did that. Allah caused it. See? I'm not saying anything that isn't in the text. And that's what it says. So he's a deceiver. Make that to tell them that he is able. No, that's not what it says. But they killed him not nor crucified him, but it was made to appear to them. And those who differ therein are full of doubts. So you're full of doubting. You don't believe the Quran. You guys who are watching this and hearing this, do you see this is what happens? I mean, it's obvious that the truth is that Allah caused a deception by his own hand. Allah is a deceiver. So what is the greatest deception to a Muslim then? Yes, I understand it. I understand the text. Okay, go ahead, Aziz, if you can. He's back.
Which is kind of weird because in the control panel I don't see Aziz.
Really?
So that I can turn him up.
Yeah, I see him. I see him.
I need to make my screen bigger here. Okay, yeah, you should be able to. You are unmuted. Aziz?
That's right. When he comes on the radio show and he says he's Aziz, I say Gesundheit.
Well, you can talk if your microphone is working, which is not. Does he call in your show often?
Oh, once a month or so, I guess.
Let me ask you this, Matt Slick. With all that's occurring, it seems like these attacks are not. It seems like it's going to get worse and worse. I mean, that is.
Yeah, it is.
This group of Muslims who are either faithful to their text or radicals in some way or another, there are literally hundreds of millions of them. Even if they're a very small percentage of Muslims, there are hundreds of millions of them. What comfort can you have for Christians worldwide in light of what's going on? What would you say?
Well, I would say that the truth is that Jesus Christ is God in flesh. He's only allowing this for a reason. I don't know exactly what the reason is unless it's to assist the Antichrist or to allow things to come to a place where the Antichrist will be made manifest. Islam is the spirit of Antichrist. It denies that Jesus Christ is God in flesh. And it says that the Trinity is three gods, which is really interesting because the Trinity is not three gods. You'd think that Muhammad would get that right, that he would at least attack and criticize what we actually believed, not what we did not believe. But nevertheless, our hope is in Jesus. And there are thousands upon thousands of reports of Muslims having visions and dreams of Jesus, and they're becoming Christians. Also, a lot of Muslims are sick and tired of this kind of activity. Only 18% of the world, of the Arabs, speak Arabic and can read the Quran. So, what, 72%, 82%? Yeah, 82% of the world's population of Muslims don't even read the Arabic. They don't know. Most of them don't believe in this kind of stuff. It's those who can read Arabic, who believe what the Quran says at its core. Those are the ones who are dangerous. Those are the ones who believe that by dying in battle, they're guaranteed heaven. And by killing infidels, that they will have a greater reward in paradise, having more sex with more women. This is their idea of heaven, is to have sensual pleasures and sensual gratifications. In Islam, the paradise is having young male boys, also who are your servants, let's say, and also women, 72 perpetual virgins that you can have sex with. All you have to do is think of what you want, and it's brought to you. It's all about your pleasure. It's about your desires. And that is such a light year distance from what Christianity teaches, that the presence of God himself is the goal, not our sensual pleasures of sexual intercourse with a bunch of women. You can tell it's just made for man. There are a lot of Muslims who are seeing this for what it is, and they want out. They want to find something bigger and better. A lot of Muslims are tired of it, and we have to look at as Muslims as being victims of Islam. They're victims of the great lie. And what we Christians need to do is pray and ask to be used of God, to be trained of God, and to be ready to be friends to a degree to the Muslims. And remember, not all of them believe 5:151, I think it is, or 5, where it is, don't take Christians and Jews as your friends. Find that verse. I have so much to memorize, but where is that verse? Yeah, 5:51. Don't take Jews and Christians as your friends. A lot of them do have Jews and Christians as friends because they don't believe, they don't know what the Quran is really teaching. And I suspect that as Islam becomes more violent, I think a lot of Muslims are going to reconsider Islam, and we Christians need to be there with the gospel. And we need to be there with the gospel of salvation by grace, not by the sword, not by killing people. And we need to be ready to fight for the faith, one form or another. We need to be able to be willing to be used of God. It's going to happen. A lot of Muslims are going to get sick of what's going on. We Christians need to be ready. So pray to be ready. Okay.
We have Vincent. Vincent has a question for you.
Yeah, it might be kind of a dumb question, but I can't remember the word that you were using for the Muslims' command to lie to others in order to further Islam. But I am curious if that call to lie also, I guess, is something that you are to do to others who claim to be Muslim, or is it only to the infidels?
It's supposed to be only to the infidels, but some Muslim sects think that their other groups that are Muslims are also infidels, so they hate each other.
Okay. Yeah, the reason why I asked is because, if indeed, what you were saying is accurate, and Muhammad, the guy that's in the chat and also in the room here with us, is is speaking what he believes is true, it seems as though that watering down of the English version of the Bible either has misled him or he's lying. He is, I guess, adhering to what the Quran says he should do. It's one of the two, it seems. Would that be an accurate assessment?
Yeah, I would say that he's probably just deceived. But if he really studies the Quran, then he's lying to us. If he really studies the Quran in Arabic, then he has to be lying.
Okay. Well, it's interesting to hear that there might actually be sects that are trying to deceive other people who claim to be Muslim. That's very interesting. So I'll back off because it looks like Aziz might have things.
Yeah, there's a lot to study, a lot to learn. What's the surah? What's the location of that verse, Muhammad?
Muhammad left, unfortunately.
Oh,
Aziz.
Let's see.
Aziz, let's test your microphone one more time. Fail. No worky. That's frustrating. It must be extremely frustrating for him because he keeps trying.
Yeah, type it out. I'm trying to find what surah that is. That's what he says. This Muhammad said before he left. Could you see this ayah? It is he who has sent down to you, O Muhammad, the book. In it are verses that are precise. They are the foundation of the book, and others unspecific. As for those in whose hearts is deviation from the truth, they will follow that of it which is unspecified, seeking discord and seeking an interpretation suitable to them, and no one knows its true interpretation except Allah. But those firm in knowledge say, we believe it. All of it is from our Lord. In other words, what he's saying is, if you don't agree with them, you're deceived. They have the true understanding. That's what he's saying. But you saw that he admitted that Allah was the one who caused this other person to look like Jesus. Allah did that. That's a deception. So Allah is a deceiver. Let's see. I'm going to look, see what version. I'm trying to find it. I know I've read that before. I can't find it. Nope. Oh, there's so much.
So we have room if anybody wants to join. We can go for another half hour. If anybody wants to join, we've got room in here. And everybody who's in here, if you'd like to join the conversation, just let me know. And I will add you to the broadcast.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Whoa, finally.
This is Aziz.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How you doing, buddy? Uh-oh, did we lose him again? Yeah, he was quoting Surah 3:7. I found it.
Well, we heard him briefly.
Yeah.
Does Dan, Jason... All right, it's working now, Aziz.
Okay, so I just wanted to share a couple things. So I'm not a Muslim, but I used to live in Lebanon for about 23 years. So I had a lot of acquaintances and friends even that were Muslims, classmates, etc. We honestly had a fine relationship, or I had a fine relationship with most of them. A couple of times, some of them that were more knowledgeable in the Quran and in the Bible would want to converse about different topics. We had some good discussions, but I wanted to run this by Matt specifically and see what he thought, because I hear his radio show often, but I don't necessarily hear him speak about the following too much. So it seems as if Muslims are divided into sects, like you already mentioned, but also they seem to be divided kind of right in the middle between the one portion, and I don't want to give percentages, but the one portion that really does believe everything that the Quran says, and the other portion that claims that they do, but then they cherry pick basically.
Right.
So when you bring up a verse that seems violent, they might say, well, that was at a time when the Muslims needed to be, and they'll always make a comparison between that and the Old Testament and the Bible, and say, well, you guys also have some issues in your Old Testament, but we don't worry about those anymore. So, like I was trying to say, it looks like there's this, I really believe the Quran type of Muslim, and then the more quote-unquote moderate Muslim that really kind of does, but really doesn't. So I want to get Matt's take, if you guys don't mind, on this whole thing.
Well, like I said, most Muslims don't believe in that violence. Most of them are peace-loving people, just like most Christians are kind of ignorant about Christianity in a lot of ways, or just cultural Christians born into it. That's about it. It's the ones who take the Quran seriously, and those are the ones that are a problem. Yeah, there are factions within Islam, over 100 different groups study the Quran and claim to have some form of truth of it. The major ones are the Sunni. They seem to have a lot in their ranks that believe the Quran literally, and we also have the I'm tired, Sufi. Hold on a sec here. Yeah. Oh, the Shiite. What am I thinking? We have the Sunni, the Shiites, and then the Sufi. Yeah, the Shiites are about 10% or so. The Sunni are about 80% or so. Maybe the Shiites maybe a little bit more. But the issue is, when they believe what the actual Quran says, and the one group might take certain parts more literally, you'll always find people in even some of these subgroups that will take the Quran seriously, and that's what's a problem. If you're going to take it seriously, you're really going to study it and read it, you're going to find those verses that talk about making war with the unbelievers. You're already going to find the verses that say that you can't make it to heaven unless you die in jihad, but you might make it to heaven, but you don't know. If you're really, really, really good, you might make it. This is a worry that they have all the time. Are they always going to be good enough? Are they going to be good? What's that? I guess but yeah. So anyway, Islam is a dangerous religion. It is. I should say the Quran's a dangerous book. But most people don't even know what the Quran really teaches.
So Matt, that word you were referencing before, the word of fighting, or to fight them wherever you find them, and you claim that that word in Arabic. Yeah, you claim that word in Arabic meant to fight, to kill.
Right.
I actually speak Arabic, and you are technically correct. However, it's one of those words that can also be used symbolically. So when you tell, I don't know, your son or your daughter, which you shouldn't, when you tell them, you're so bad I'm going to kill you, you don't literally mean I'm going to kill you. Right. But yeah, I mean, I can understand where you're going with that, but it can be, an easy argument can be made against the literalness there, just so you know.
Except that that's not how the Hadith, and I don't have the cross references yet. I'm still, studying, but some of the Islamic scholars and in the Hadith have interpreted 929, and what they mean is it means fight to kill. Yeah. It means fight to kill. Yeah. Context determines meaning. 929 says, "Fight those who believe not in Allah nor the last day, nor hold that forbidden which hath been forbidden by Allah and His apostle, nor acknowledge the religion of truth, even if they are of the people of the book, until they pay the jizya with willing submission and feel themselves subdued." The jizya, people, is the tax that those who are defeated by Islam, subdued by Islam, once they bow the head, so to speak, bow the knee, and they admit themselves conquered and subdued, then basically Islam teaches that you're supposed to be peace with the ones subdued, but that's not really how it works. Such people are not to have any jobs of authority or position over any Muslim. Such people in submission are not allowed to build churches or repair Christian churches in an area, if there happen to be any. If you lead a Muslim to the Lord and become a Christian, you can be killed for that. This is Sharia. And so the jizya is a tax that these subjugated people are supposed to pay. It's roughly 80% of your income. I've heard different numbers, but that's what I've understood to be the case. 80% of your income goes to, to wherever. I don't know where it goes yet. I haven't researched that one yet either. So that's what it means in the context. Fight those who believe not in Allah till they're subdued. That's what it means.
Since you also brought up the hadith, I had mentioned that with some of the acquaintances that I've had that were Muslims, and interestingly, a lot of them actually said, well, no, we actually don't believe that all the hadith is quote-unquote inspired by God. So they basically claim that because it was just the conversation, and that's the word hadith, means conversation, because it was just the conversations of the Prophet, therefore, there could have been issues with the scribes that wrote it, etc. So they, weasel out of that one as well.
They try, but the hadith repeats itself in so many places, and we know that Muhammad started wars with people. We know that he had people killed, had fires put on people's chests. We know that he would marry women who were married to other men, have them killed. I mean, we know that he did this stuff. Even the Muslims acknowledge it. The more I study it, the more I realize it is a religion from Satan. It's evil. And what I was doing earlier when I was saying the jizya tax and the conditions that the people submitted had to be under, there's a lot more. In fact, let me go find it on my website, and if I can find it quickly. Sharia. I wrote an article, Can a Muslim be President of the United States? In one sense, yes. In another sense, no. But he can never swear allegiance to uphold the conversation without committing taqiyya, without lying. In Sharia, this is just part of the laws of Sharia. Sharia means law. And so it's not Sharia law, it's just Sharia, which is Islamic law. Those who leave Islam are to be killed. Criticizing the Quran and Muhammad is punishable by death. A Muslim who becomes a Christian can be killed. A Christian who converts a Muslim to Christianity can be killed. A non-Muslim may not display wine or pork openly, recite their scriptures, or celebrate their religious holidays. A Muslim cannot receive the death penalty for killing a non-Muslim. Christians may not repair or build churches. Non-Muslims do not have equal rank, status, or authority as Muslims in the society. Testimony from low-ranking people is not permissible in Islamic court. The testimony of a woman is half the value of a man's testimony in court. For a woman to prove rape, she must have 4 male witnesses. There's no age limit for how young a girl can be to marry a Muslim man. Slavery is permitted, and the biggest slave trade is in the Arab areas. Muslims may engage in taqiyya, which is lying to non-Muslims to advance Islam. That's just 14 of them. A Muslim, a true Muslim, could not swear allegiance to the United States of America to uphold the Constitution unless he's practicing taqiyya, like Obama is probably doing, because Obama is a Muslim.
That's what I was going to say. I don't know about that, but
yep,
there is evidence for that.
Go to YouTube. You can just type in Obama Muslim, and you'll see it. It's not dubbed. You'll see excerpt after excerpt after excerpt where he's, my Muslim faith.
Yeah.
I mean, I could play it. I could, if you want, put my microphone up here and listen to a few if you want.
I wasn't going to necessarily disagree with you, but I was going to interrupt you when you started your sentence saying that a Muslim can't be the president.
Yeah.
I was going to say,
without practicing taqiyya.
Now?
Yep. Well, I've got it right here. I can play this if you want for a minute or two. If you guys want.
Sure, if it'll go through.
Okay. Let me see if I can do this quickly. Speakers, which means I might not be able to hear you. Hold on.
Or you can send me the link if you want.
Okay. Okay, yeah.
So I want to ask Jason, Dan, and appeal to Martin if any of you would like to join the conversation. please respond in the group chat, and I will add you.
Yeah, wait. I can't get it to play. Well, it's playing, but I can't get the sound to come up and work. Yeah. I gave you the link in the chat right there. One of the things you guys could do for, I don't want to say entertainment value, but for interesting research, is to go to Google and just type in Sweden Muslim rapes. Sweden Muslim rapes, and see what you find.
All right, there's only 14 million views on this, so.
Yeah, it can't be too good. It's like 14 million views.
Assalamu alaikum. Many other Americans have Muslims in their families or have lived in a Muslim majority country. I know because I am one of them. But my father came from a Kenyan family that includes generations of Muslims. As a boy, I spent several years in Indonesia and heard the call of the azan at the break of dawn. I have known Islam on 3 continents before coming to the region where it was first revealed. That experience guides my conviction.
You're absolutely right that John McCain has not talked about my Muslim faith.
I guess it didn't like it when I made it a big screen there. Restarted it.
Your accomplishments have earned the respect of the United States and the world. I also know civilization's debt to Islam. It was Islam at places like Uluzar that carried the light of learning through so many centuries, paving the way for Europe's Renaissance and Enlightenment.
What?
It was innovation in Muslim communities that developed the order of algebra, our magnetic compass and tools of navigation, our mastery of pens and printing, our understanding of how disease spreads and how it can be healed. Islamic culture has given us majestic arches and soaring spires, timeless poetry and cherished music, elegant calligraphy, and places of peaceful contemplation. They have fought in our wars, they have served in our government, they have stood for civil rights, they have started businesses, they have taught at our universities, they've excelled in our sports arenas, they've won Nobel Prizes, built our tallest building, and lit the Olympic torch. And when the first Muslim American was recently elected to Congress, he took the oath to defend our Constitution using the same Holy Quran. In ancient times and in our times, Muslim communities have been at the forefront of innovation and education.
The text says Obama defends Islam now.
Islam is not part of the problem in combating violent extremism. It is an important part of promoting peace. The enduring faith of over 1 billion people is so much bigger than the narrow hatred of a few. In the United States, rules on charitable giving have made it harder for Muslims to fulfill their religious obligation. That's why I'm committed to working with American Muslims to ensure that they can fulfill zakat. It is important for Western countries to avoid impeding Muslim citizens from practicing religion as they see fit. And I consider it part of my responsibility as President of the United States to fight against negative stereotypes of Islam wherever they appear.
That's the Bible Thumping Wingnut show right there. Obama declares America to be a Muslim nation.
We are no longer a Christian nation.
We do not consider ourselves a Christian nation.
The United States has been enriched by Muslim Americans. Since our founding, American Muslims have enriched the United States. Islam has always been a part of America's story. There is a mosque in every state in our union, and over 1,200 mosques within our borders.
One of the points I want to make is that if you actually took the number of Muslims Americans, we'd be one of the largest Muslim countries in the world.
Let there be no doubt, Islam is a part of America.
Obama bows before a Muslim king.
He did bow to the Muslim king, while he did not do it to the British Queen of England. And by bowing, he showed the world that I am subservient. I do bow down to you as a Muslim king, something no other president has done with Saudi Arabia. The Saudi king is his peer. He is not his subordinate in order to bow for him. And this is exactly what Obama did. Usually it is out of respect that someone...
I recognize that voice. She's the one who spoke up in a meeting when a supposed moderate Muslim spoke up, and she's got a very famous YouTube video.
Would nod his head when bowing to royalty, and the ladies will give curtsy. But Obama went beyond what is required as a head of state and bowed to the Saudi king, and that's unacceptable. It sent the wrong symbol.
When you say it sends the wrong signal, what signal do you think it sends?
It sent a message that Islam is superior to any other master or king or president in the world. That an American president bowed to a Muslim king.
So that's about a third of that video. Lots of stuff there. Some of it, Matt, I think some of it makes a good argument, and others not. Some of it's a little. It's not the best evidence.
Yeah, there's other ones out.
Yeah. Okay, so Nasser just joined, which now he left. Those who have interesting names that catch my eye, I want to try to add them to the conversation in case they're Muslims. But I think we're pretty much ready to wrap up. I've been asking people that are in the Hangout if they want to join and engage. Jason says yes. So, Jason, you are now able to unmute your mic. Jason's been here pretty much for the whole time.
Yeah, I was just going to looks like I'm getting some feedback here. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I was getting some feedback there at the beginning. I was just going to point out that is that our modern society just it doesn't appear that we have an ability to be able to deal as a Western civilization to deal with these type of extremists anymore. I mean, you go back even half a century, and we were able as a Western society to be able to deal with people like the Nazis. But postmodernism has just has basically emasculated the Western society, and even despite these atrocities right in people's faces, they don't have a worldview that can actually deal with it. And so that's why that's my position. I don't know that what your perspective is on it, but that's just why we see these irrational responses from the media and especially from more of the liberal side of things. We don't see a cohesive, consistent response to it. They still, despite all this, will still claim that Islam is a religion of peace, even though you can demonstrate from the Quran that's just not true. And despite the actions of its followers, they'll still hold to it. And I think a lot of that just has to deal with worldview issues. You don't have a worldview in which you can actually rationally deal with it.
Yeah, well, I'd say Islam is a religion of peace. Piece of your arm, a piece of your leg. In fact,
yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if any of you, did what I suggested. Sweden, for example, Muslim and rape. And look at what's happening. Sweden is publishing stuff. It's a Muslim rape wave in Sweden. It's a rape capital of the West. I think I'm trying to remember the statistics, but something like 90% of all rapes are done by Muslims in Sweden. Because rape is one of the things that's allowed when you conquer somebody. You conquer them, you can take, as the Quran says, as many as your hand possesses. You have the right to do with the slaves that you've conquered, and you can take the wives.
Now, do you think that 60, 70 years ago in Western civilization, with more of a biblical worldview, even if they weren't Christians, that they would have allowed something like this to actually progress within their societies and their civilizations?
Well, I just say what I got to say, but they had more balls back then. They don't have it anymore. You're right.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's true. You know, the pacification, the propagandizing of things. You know, when men are made to be ashamed of their masculinity and try and get in tune with their feminine side, the attack on masculinity in our culture. You look at TV, men are buffoons, or like Arnold Schwarzenegger, mass killers, and portrayed in movies and things like that. This is one of the things that men don't know how to be men anymore, don't know how to stand up, get upset, fight. And I'm not saying we have to be aggressive and mean. I'm not advocating all that. I'm saying, just as Jesus said in Luke 22:36, he said to the disciples, "You have a sword?" He said, "No." He said, "Sell your cloak and go buy one." Jesus said that. And he sent his disciples out into the world. And the reason he said that was because we have the right of self-defense. Not that we're to be aggressive, but we have the right of self-defense. And we're just not to be sent out there as weak idiots. But let me tell you guys something. A lot of people just don't understand Islamic culture. I got a ton to learn. The guys that I was with this past week in Detroit, they forgot more since lunch than I've learned about Islam. These guys are incredible. But one thing I learned a long time ago is that when Muhammad first started his thing, and there's conflicting stories about how it got started, but when he started Islam, he had like 30 followers in Mecca. And he became persecuted by the Christians and Jews and some other pagans that were there. And he fled to Medina, and there he got another 30 or so converts, about 60. That's big enough to get some money coming in, and he had three wives, a couple houses, and he had to find a way to pay for it. So he got a revelation that you could rob caravans because they're infidels. So he got and robbed his caravans, these 60 guys or whatever, and just take what they wanted. Well, that meant that battles would occur and they would kill, so they started getting money. Well, thugs are going to be attracted to that kind of a thing. You go out and you ambush people, you kill them if you have to, but you get their possessions and become rich. That appeals to a lot of guys. So just think of it as a gang, the Muslim gang, the Muhammad gang, as it was early on. And then he expanded his sites to other cities, and he wanted to get more. And so this gang, we just grew into a religion of violence, a religion of killing, a religion of possession. One of the things they would do is when they would kill people in battle, they were able to take the possessions. Women were considered basically property. Hence, women could be raped. Now, there's some rules for rape in Islam. You're not supposed to rape a woman if she's married, but there's some inconsistencies there. And I may not have quoted that perfectly, but this is what I've been reading. Still learning a lot, but there are many counts, of rape, of the men raping these women that they would capture. Well, what kind of people are going to want to join a religion like that? The men who like raping, killing, and stealing. This is the kind of people who would join the ranks of Muhammad. And so it grew quickly, because you got to realize in the area they're all pagan worshippers. They don't know what the truth is. They just find a leader. And now they got a leader that'll justify them raping and killing and stealing. So when they grew in strength in Medina, they went back to Mecca. And this is what's critically important. The people of Mecca, the officials of Mecca, they came out to meet Muhammad and seek peace with him. He considered that to be a sign of weakness on their part. And so what he did was he basically killed them. And so when people bow down, when they seek to make peace with Muslims, what they don't realize what they're doing is that they're just trying to be peaceful and negotiate. They're saying, without saying these words, they're saying, we're weak and afraid of you. We hope you don't try and tackle us because you'll probably beat us. That emboldens the Muslims. This is why a lot of people don't realize it's hard to negotiate with them. Like ISIS, the way to take care of them is with force. And if Obama was a real president, he would get together with other leaders of other Western nations and set an example of ISIS to the world. And one of the things, if I were president, I'd be saying to the army, you do what you got to do. You know, you'd go in and you clean them out. Here's your weapons. Here's your support. Here's your guns. Here's this. Here's that. And also one of the things is you take a bunch of pig's blood. Take pigs. You go into an Arab area. Take pigs. I don't care if it offends them or not. A bunch of pigs. And you put them in a big container or whatever, and you slaughter them. Let them die, bleed out. You take the blood and take a mop or whatever, and you water down the blood a little bit so it goes a long way. You mop it over your weapons, your ammunition, and then you hand the ammunition to the soldiers and let all the Arabs see this, because it's an unclean animal. And what I've heard, and I've heard it confirmed, though I haven't seen it in their hadith, because it's not in the Quran, but I haven't seen it in the hadith, that if they get killed with one of those blood-tainted bullets or shrapnel or whatever, they automatically go to hell. They're unclean. That's the kind of stuff you got to do. People would be saying, that's not nice. Okay, we'll tell you what. We'll give you first-class ticket and a plane. You go over and talk nice to them. Go talk nice to ISIS. And then when we see you in an orange jumpsuit on your knees in the desert, we'll know that you failed. This is what you have to do with these kinds of warmongering people who believe the Quran down deep to the core. That's what you have to do if you're going to beat them. They're gaining power. It's a war. And you don't negotiate with the enemy in war. You fight. That's what we had to do with Hitler. That's what we had to do against Japan. That's what we had to do with others that we've had to have war with. I'm not advocating it, that we go to war. But they're the ones who are gaining power. They are the ones who are assaulting nations. They're the ones who are doing this. They're the ones. And our leaders better wake up.
Wow.
And they need to get smart on how they're going to handle immigration from these Muslim countries. Needs to stop. And they need to vet every single person they can. And if they cannot identify who they are with papers and stuff, they can't come in.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a question for you guys. Have any of you heard of the Christians being as immigrants into America? Or is it only Muslims? Anybody?
I know Aziz wanted to chime in.
Yeah, hey, I mean, I just have a couple of comments on what Matt was sharing. I'm with you when it comes to ISIS completely. They're nuts, and they do need to be taken care of. And again, as the leadership here in this country tries to deal with them, or maybe not, they should be taking a much harder stance. I'm on board there, but I think we need to be careful when it comes to using the word Muslims, because that involves people who are Muslims. So again, I mean, as you're speaking there, I'm just cringing just a little bit, because I'm thinking, yes, I agree when it comes to ISIS, but no, I don't necessarily agree when you're using the word Muslims and ISIS interchangeably, or so it seems like you are.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I need to be more consistent and say those who take the Quran seriously, those are the ones I got to be careful of. I don't know if you heard earlier, 18% of the Muslims speak Arabic. That's where the real problem is. Those who are going to really understand the Arabic, because the Arab Quran is, Aziz, it's not the same in many areas. It's been watered down in English.
You're right. You're right. And also, since we're on this real quick, I heard on your show the other day you were mentioning that when you went to I forget where it was, but ABN sat. You were in a room with a bunch of Arab-speaking individuals who love the Lord and want to serve Him. So yeah, I want to also, enlighten you a little bit more. I grew up in an area in Lebanon where there was a significant Christian Arab population, and these were, pastors and assistant pastors and apologists who went out into these Muslim areas sometimes, and sometimes I would join them. And they wanted to reach the Muslims for Jesus, and they wanted to make sure they know the truth. So, it is pretty amazing, and there are hundreds of thousands, I would dare say, in Lebanon, in Syria, and Iraq, and Egypt, all over the Middle East, but no one really knows about them, because we only hear about the Arab Muslims.
Right.
But yeah, I'm with you on the rest of that.
Well, yeah, I had said, I don't know if you were here earlier, the majority of Muslims, they don't want to fight. They don't want to hurt anybody. The majority of Muslims are peaceful people that are trustworthy. That's why I need to get in the habit of saying the ones we got to be careful of are the ones who take the Quran seriously. That's the issue. And what does that mean? Well, that's hard to work through as well. But we know that those who shout Allah Akbar and then pull their belts, for suicide belts, to the glory of Allah. We know that they're doing it because they think that Islam is true.
Well, I'm getting all kinds of feedback from all different avenues. People are trying to contact me. I've been speaking to Illuminati people, all kinds of stuff. People coming through on Skype, and people commenting on Google+. Matt, I'm going to send you a link to an article about Sweden's rape rate under the spotlight. And Matt Hicks is here, and he wanted to make a comment. We are about to wrap up, and as usual, folks, the best part of the discussion happens after we go off the air. I always hear about it every morning. I get all kinds of private messages about, you wouldn't believe the conversation that happened at hour number 7. Well, I was asleep for 4 hours at hour number 7, but a lot of real interesting conversation goes on here in this Google Hangout. It's not live or broadcast on Google or on YouTube, but it is on Mixlr. So we're going to be switching over to only airing on Mixlr. If you want that link, go to BibleThumpingWing.com. It's right there on the main page. Can't miss it. Just click on Mixlr. Matt Hicks, how are you, sir?
Well, doing well. I just wanted to make a quick comment. I think just to wrap up, I guess, but I do believe it's one of the things where the world looks at Christianity and judges it by the people and says, well, that religion is false because of the people they're hypocrites, they don't. But as Christians, we tell them to focus on our book and read our Bible, and that's what we go to as our standard. It's just very interesting how the world wants to say, whoa, these people are calm, the people are calm, not everybody's mean, but the actual, if you go to the actual scriptures that they profess, and if you look at those, I think that's the key. We gotta get kind of away from where the people are and go to what the foundation of their books, what that says. I think that's
right.
I think that's a key.
Amen. That's what I say. Those
they
want
to have it. They want to have it both ways. They want to say, well, the Christians don't act the way they should. Why aren't they out here doing this and this and this? But when the Muslims do it, they're the first to say, whoa, let's take a look at that. They can't mean what that says. it can't mean what that says. So just
Well,
think
that's just it. We talked about this earlier. You know, you don't find anything in the New Testament at all that says go out and kill anybody. Would Jesus be strapping bombs and going with AK-47s into places and shooting people? Of course not.
No.
You know, he wouldn't be doing that. Muhammad would, but Jesus wouldn't be doing it. So there's a big difference.
And even atheists have to go to the Old Testament, pull everything out of context, and put it through their worldview to make it look bad. But what is your thoughts, Matt, on, you know, hey man, I'm a believer out here. You know, I've seen a lot of Facebook. Hey, we're going to put the flag of France. I know that's supportive, but what can we do in this process to help point people to Christ instead of, you know, using this in the right way instead of I don't know.
Well,
I don't want to be one of those Christians that just, you know, say I'm going to help and not do anything. You know, what can we do?
Right. What I would suggest is pray and ask God to use you, you know, and study, and just ask to be used. It takes time. I mean, we can be used right away by praying for the Muslims. They're victims of Islam. We should pray that God would be merciful to them, and that He would raise up people to deal with those terrorists in a way that needs to be dealt with. So, you know, when Muslims come and you meet them, you know, give them the benefit of the doubt. Find out how seriously they take the Quran. Be cautious, but, you know, try and witness to them and make disciples of them. One of the things to focus on is the assurance of salvation. We have it in Christianity. They don't have it in Islam unless they kill others, and that's a problem.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody who chimed in. Matt Hicks, that was good. Everybody. I want to thank our Muslim friend who joined. Everybody. It was. We had some technical difficulties, but I think, though, all in all, it's very worthwhile to listen to. So, I'm sure you have all found it interesting and encouraging. For those of you who appreciate the ministry of Matt Slick, I want to encourage you to go to carm.org. And support him financially. For those of you with any questions in regards to Christianity, obviously you can go to carm.org. If I would like to have your feedback. We get a lot of feedback in the comment section. I don't usually see all of them, but I do read my email. So you can give me feedback at BibleThumpingWingnut@gmail.com, BibleThumpingWingnut@gmail.com, and those of you who would like to support Bible Thumping Wingnut YouTube and podcast, there's a link to our Patreon account in this description of this video. So thanks again, and the conversation will continue and probably get better, as it usually does, on Mixlr. At BibleThumpingWingnut.com, you can find that link to go listen on Mixlr. I'm going to open it up. I'm going to add everybody to the broadcast. I'm going to give controls to Rocco and Matt and others, and then I'm going to go to bed because I've got to get up early in the morning and drive a big truck, and nobody wants me out on the road with little sleep. So thanks everybody for watching and for listening and for your comments and those who participated, and until next time, may God bless each and every one of you.